We're in the Netherlands this morning to run a half marathon.
Here's an example of the Dutch most advanced drone technology.
This is not Amsterdam, it's not even Rotterdam. It's a smaller city called Utrecht, more towards the center of the Netherlands. As you know, this is a completely flat country, so let's check if that is true. There are like many thousands of runners today, so let me show you what it looks like.
We're getting 2 paces per target time, but as always there is no pacer for 1 hour and 35. Okay, time to start running. As you can see, they apply this artificial bottleneck technique just before the start line, as I described previously in other videos. That works wonder to avoid people pushing and having too much density in the first moments after crossing the start line.
Hi jongens! Let's go! Let's go!
Quite a lot of spectators here, even though they are not very active, and despite it being well outside the city center. In fact, the support was great all throughout the 21k of the race. There was no area that felt really lonely, even though most of the course was not urban.
Yeah, the Dutch cobblestones.
So obviously we're running on a cycle path here, and immediately we got to go down and up to cross a highway. Still in the first kilometer, this sets the tone for what we're gonna get for the rest of the race. Suburbs, gardens, greenery, cycle path.
It's pretty warm today, so let me try to stay in the shade.
This is at around the 1 mile mark. I tried to film my strides regularly throughout the race because I wanted to check some technical aspects of it. So yes, it's hot and humid on the day, but yet not as much as it is back home in Valencia, so it doesn't bother me too much. We're passing by some sports installations here, still on the cycle path. Now, even though there is also a 10k, kids race and a full marathon, they all start at different times, so this is only the half marathon.
A little U-turn here, not too sure why. Yeah.
There's obviously a huge biking culture here in the Netherlands, but running too. I saw quite a few runners out there in the days prior to the race, and there are pretty good athletics facilities and of course countless kilometers of cycle path that you can run on.
Lots of cycle path running so far, and it looks like my GPS is like lagging 100 meters behind, which is very strange.
So it turns out this is indeed a very flat country, but there are like at least a dozen of over or under passes throughout the course. No big deal, but just so you know. And here comes the first water station, giving cups rather than bottles. So the ground is rapidly covered with cups, much more so than with bottles, as I already explained several times. And this is sort of the head of the race. Imagine how it will be for the runners in the last wave. It also becomes wet very quickly, but luckily the Dutch cycle path drains water very efficiently, so they can use the bicycle even when it's raining. But anyway, I lost significant time indeed at each water station, grabbing the cup and then drinking. Yet another little climb here alongside the railway to cross a street, but we get to see the runners underneath. And then another bridge to cross the highway. Now honestly, this is one of the most iconic and recognizable elements of the course, although there are a few more when we reach the city center.
5 kilometers in, I'm not feeling too good. But
so that speaks for how scenic this course is, beyond of course nature and greeneries and some canals.
Ooh, the last one.
Yeah, I almost missed it here and I lost again quite a bit of time. Yes, indeed, I've been gradually slowing down, but I'm reminding myself that I'm not running for a time objective today, so I'm letting this group go.
Yeah, the 140 guy called me again.
Another underpass, and yet another one.
So this is essentially a cycle path marathon or half marathon. Quite narrow at times.
So despite the course not being very scenic for my likings, the city and area around it is actually quite nice from a touristic point of view, with lots of things to see and do. And I would say it has a young and vibrant atmosphere.
I guess we're set for another U-turn. At least this stretch is shaded.
Now, in terms of culture and way of life, the Dutch are very social people. A very important element of culture is the bike, also the relationship with water, the sea and the ground, because most of what you see here used to be either under the sea or a swampy area a few centuries ago. And because of that, the way of life is also marked by the high density of population. And in terms of food, there's some very nice fish and also a clear influence from the colonial past in Indonesia.
In the forest.
So a word about the cost of racing here. The bib number was priced reasonably. The flights are supposedly low cost, but not as cheap as they used to be. Public transport is reasonable. Food and especially accommodation are quite expensive, as you could expect for any European northern country like the UK or Germany. So as we approach the 10k mark here in this suburb, notice that the cycle path is now made of sort of mortar bricks, but it's quite runnable. And here comes the third water station. There is both water and energy drink available. Plenty of volunteers and the cups are rather full, so not bad. The stations are clearly visible ahead of time. However, some stations are only available on one side of the cycle path, clearly because there's not enough space on both sides. And now out of the blue appear the 1 hour 35 pacers, like at least 10 minutes late. So kudos to Utrecht for having 1:35 pacers, which is almost never the case, but for some reason there was definitely a mishap there. Alright, so time to rate the support and the vibes. Now, although the atmosphere is not extremely energizing, let's say, still kudos to Utrecht again for having supports all along the course. Even outside the city, in the countryside and the suburbs, there is no single stretch that is really lonely. There are spectators pretty much everywhere. Yeah, I'm taking a gel here indeed, even though, you know, nothing new on race day.
I'll take one just to taste it.
Another underpass here, and then we get a first stretch of the typical Dutch cobblestones that are actually not stones but rather bricks. So they are very regular, grippy and flat. In terms of reachability, Utrecht is pretty close to the major international airport of Amsterdam with direct trains, so no issue with that. The only issue being that the start line and the big pickup was located well outside the city center, so most Dutch people go with their own bike, but for foreigners it is not so convenient.
More cycle path.
A little down slope here to pass under something and then go up again. And it's time to grab some more water. Runners coming in the opposite direction, that means there is a U-turn coming up.
And yet another U-turn.
So we're now sort of entering the city, so we're gonna get about 5 kilometers of these brick cobblestones that are totally okay. I've got no complaint about that.
So after 15k, looks like we're finally going into the city center.
Yeah, this 14th century cathedral tower is called Dom, and we get to run under and around it. So these like 400 meters are really the heart of the city, but unfortunately my camera did not record it, so I do apologize for that, because it was clearly the most scenic part of the course.
Alright, so after this short incursion into the city center, which I was filming but I'm not sure it was recording, yeah, we got about 5k left to go back out to the science park. So here we go.
So overall, is this a fast course? Well, it is at sea level, and despite the dozen of over and under passes, it is flat. The course has perhaps too many turns, some sharp turns, and at least 5 U-turns, but the asphalt on the cycle path is very good quality.
Looks like a minefield.
And this brick pavement is no issue at all. But for a good performance, it's important to warm up properly, so how was that?
How's that for a warm-up area? It's nice, it's all for myself, it's flat, it's leading into the start line, just a bit too far, like 4 kilometers away from the start line. I couldn't find a hotel that was closer. Well, it's not really a warm-up area, it's just one of the thousands of cycle paths there are everywhere in the Netherlands. Not exactly into the start line, it's a bit chaotic to reach the start line. Many people, just a few pathways. So I guess I'm gonna have to queue a little bit. I've had enough. I just want to finish. Another 50 meters. Oh, let's finish it.
Eerst komt Ruben die Jessica aan. Hier kan je met vieren, hier kunnen die handen in de lucht. Ja, zeker weten. Zeker hebben.
Kijk eens, meisje wel. Ja.
Not something you want to eat after a race. So that was the Utrecht Half Marathon. I'm slowly jogging back to the hotel. Hope I'm gonna make it in time to check out. Yeah, really, the best of it was the support. Really amazing. Great support all the way, even outside the city on the cycle path. So from there I'm gonna move on to 5k, 10k racing this summer with no specific goal, just train a little bit of speed, and we'll see in September if we can do another half marathon, and I'm in better shape then. In the meantime, of course, if you run around, remember to look around. See you in the next one.